Smile. Hey, welcome everybody. Dr. Terry Wager, of course, and my good friend Kevin Peloso. We're here a little bit running late, but we are here. So, what are we talking about today, Kev?
Love versus fear.
Well, love versus fear. What does that mean? What are we talking about?
In leadership, is it
oh,
better to be feared or to be loved?
okay, yeah. It's
Did
better
I
to be
did I mess this up? Wait, what's the
yeah,
driving force behind leader? No, that's right.
good. You
Fear
got
versus
it.
love.
I think you got it. Uh, so why are we talking about this?
Because it's there's been successful leaders on both sides, and it's an eternal debate between professionals that what's more effective, fear or love, in terms of influencing folks and being able to lead effectively.
Yeah, I think that's really kind of an astute statement is that there has been what looks like success in both ways of doing it. And so why is I'm going to ask you this. Why do you think fear is such a strong success principle and ruling people from a place of authoritarianism?
Well, I mean, fear is a much stronger motivator than hope, right? And love, I feel like, sells hope, and fear sells, well, fear sells.
Fear
So,
self.
uh, fear sells more punishment, right? And I think it's just more of a motivator. If you're running from something, essentially, you don't want to get caught, and I don't know. It's hard for me to describe. What do you think?
Well, you kind of triggered a few different things, but I do know that, um, especially before the pandemic, everybody really had this idea of you got to stay with your job for a certain amount of time and you're going to get your benefits and you're going to get this and you're going to get that and you're going to be taken care of. And there's a whole lot of being taken care of in the world before the pandemic. And so people didn't have this idea that, oh, I just quit and do my own thing or I just quit and find something new. Um, because we were all so locked into this idea of having certainty and knowing what was next. And so fear worked really good in the fact that as a leader, they could go, if you don't perform, you're not going to have all of this stuff that you're certain in your life about and feel really good about it and feel very comfortable in. And so fear was really a great motivator then. And then everybody got the crap scared out of them when everybody thought they were going to die from COVID. Um, as a result, it was like, well, I could die from COVID. I really don't care about this noise.
It's
And
like one fear outshines the other.
absolutely, absolutely. And so, in the face of a global pandemic that everybody's going to die. Now, not everybody thought that, but a lot of people did. It's just when's it my time? Having a job and the benefits that go with it, but having to be frightened that you're going to lose that and the pressure that comes with it. Well, now it's not that big a deal. And honestly, I don't even care if I'm there, if I'm going to die anyway. And so that overwhelming threat that COVID created for people, even if they don't want to admit they were scared, created a very, very big opportunity for people to stop living under that fear regime.
Almost like fear versus fear.
Fear versus fear. The biggest fear wins. But it really opened I think it opened our collective minds about the fact that we don't have to live under that pressurized, fear inducing environment that if you don't perform, you're going to lose. If we can cut you at any time.
I think it could be used I feel like fear is like a tool that could be used for your benefit or to your detriment.
Yeah, absolutely. Say more about that though.
It's like a it's almost like a wind pushing you in a certain direction, right? If you, for example, like you're not going to let yourself, generally speaking, you're not going to let yourself be homeless, right? A lot of folks are worried about kind of taking the leap and but
Yeah,
they underestimate their own fear of being, say, homeless versus if an opportunity doesn't work out. If that makes sense.
yeah, and honestly, one of the things when I first start talking to people, when I start working with them, I really kind of point out needs versus wants because when we think we need something, we move it over into this need category the same as air, right? We need air to breathe. We're going to die without it. And so when we move things into that category of need, our unconscious mind, our instincts kick in to meet that need, and we start to get really anxious. And I've watched this over and over and over again with all kinds of different people. As soon as they move from I want this to I need this, there's an intensity and fear that comes in that's a driving force trying to either make it happen or keep it from happening either way. And as a result, there's a pressurized, uh, frenzied approach whenever we need something, just like if somebody was 30 feet below water, below air, and they have 1 second of air left. They're like, I got to take a breath. And oh, crap. And so when we need it, we get there. And so when they think, I need my job, I need my benefits, I need to do what they're telling me to, I need to get this promotion, they start walking on people or they start disregarding other people to get their need, just like air.
Do you think though that you could willingly put yourself in a position of fear that could motivate you to do better than if you were comfortable? Like you've talked
Um,
about before, moving from a comfortable, it's tough to move someone from one comfortable bed to
yeah,
another comfortable bed, right?
I it's a good question because I think that and this is where we go to want is like I want to challenge myself. I want to see what I can do. I want to put the pressure on myself. And then if it starts to get out of hand, we move into, oh God, I need to actually do this. And we forget that we actually did it to ourselves. I think that that happens to people a lot. And then we move, and our ego plays this trick on us where everything's gone if you don't do this. And our ego creates this all or nothing environment where we start to freak out. And as a result, our performance suffers. We get the hesitation or procrastination going on when we're in that need and fearful. And so there's a problem there that we can have and that we fall into. But I do think that we can put the pressure on ourselves and challenge ourselves. And I think that athletes do it. And I think that business owners and entrepreneurs do it all the time is like, I'm going to take this loan out and I don't know if I can pay it back right now, but I think I can. And then if they're taking the actions to follow through with what they're supposed to be doing, then they do good. But if they start making excuses and hesitate, they actually build fear and then they start to become overwhelmed with what they've done to themselves. And so it takes a lot of resilience, I do believe, in order to be able to do that and to take on that fear and put yourself in a place of fear and put yourself in a place of danger. And one of the things that we talk about, Christina and I talk about when we're working with teams, is entering the danger of conflict, and having an adventure in seeing what happens when you get into a place that's kind of scary, because we grow through that when we can face our fears. What a lot of people tend to do is avoid fears.
Do you think though, do you think there's a difference between, say, constructive fear versus neurotic fear?
Neuroticism. Uh, yeah, I do think that there is constructive fear. I mean, I have not never really met somebody that's like, the fear of the wolf in front of me that's going to bite me is really not that big a deal. I think I'll walk up and pet it. Um, that's
Well,
and,
well, I meant more
and I use
along.
that as a joke, but at the same time, I mean, we don't go, okay, if I jump off this building, I'm going to die. That doesn't scare me. I can do it. That's psychotic. And so we have fear that is constructive and it's important. The problem that we have is not that fear is destructive, it's that we use it destructively. Because all fear is really a warning signal saying, hey, you might want to look in front of you. The wolf is there, or the building, you're going to fall off and die, or the deal might not go through, or these people might reject you. Any of that is important. But when we let that be destructive instead of, okay, how are we going to approach this? And then what happens for most people is instead of actually going, okay, I have some kind of faith that things are going to work out in this situation, and this danger isn't dropping off a building or getting bit by a wolf. It's putting myself out there and becoming vulnerable. And so they create this idea in their mind of any fear is dangerous. And so I'm not going to deal with it. I'm going to avoid fear at all costs. That's bad. That's destructive.
Yeah, it's like the idea of like what I was referring to. It's like the idea of having a plan B,
Right.
or the saying of burn the ships.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, assuming that the fear that you have is something that's going to actually move you forward if you engage with it, like not petting a hungry wolf, right? Like that's going to get you killed. But
At least
but
not.
you right, mortally wounded. But I think, but I mean more and I that's kind of, I know that's what like you're getting at, is like more in terms of having fear towards something that is going to be good for you, is going to move you forward. But sometimes it takes, um, at least for me, I'm kind of like almost talking from my own experience with this, that idea of burning the ships, right? There is no other option. You have to make this work. You
Yeah.
have to.
Yeah.
That's it. It's this or die.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually have a really good example from my own life with that is like in 1997, when many of you were kids or not born yet, I had the opportunity to go back to school. And I created that opportunity by accident because I was working in a restaurant and I was just about to become enrolled in the management program and become a sous chef. And my chef is like, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I think I want to become a psychologist. I was like, wait a minute, that's not what's supposed to come out. I wanted to be a sous chef and I wanted to get into management and grow in the company. But that popped out instead. And so the automatic fear, like, oh shit, what did I say? And he's like, do you really want to do that? And then I was like, I think I do. And at that time, I was like, kind of scared by that because I wasn't really expecting that to come out of my mouth. And it really did. It was like somebody else said it. But then as I thought about it, I was like, that's really what I want to do. It was a very surreal moment. I talk about it a lot with people because I had this moment where I thought my trajectory was this way and it became this way. And I'm like, oh God, what do I do? And then he gave me the opportunity for plan B, which was, well, if that's what you want to do, you should pursue it. And you always have a home here if you want to be here. And so I had a plan B, but my option was, well, if I said that, I got to do it. And so I was living as if I didn't have the plan B, but I had the plan B. And so I was like, okay, and I don't know if I'm supposed to do this or not because it was just a crazy idea in my head. And so what's that one step I could do? And the one step I did was to step into applying to the college and then applying to the program and seeing what happened. And I've never had anything happen to me faster in my life. I applied. A week later, I got a letter saying I got into college. I applied to the program. I got in the program, and in 3 weeks, I had left the restaurant job and I was in school. Nothing has ever gone that fast, including getting pulled over by the cops. Um, like, wow, that was super fast. And it was like, okay, this seems to be kind of preordained or whatever. Like this seems like a destined kind of thing. And it scared the hell out of me because I dropped out in the 11th grade. And this is where the fear comes in. Is like, I dropped out. My experience of school sucks. My experience is I'm terrible at it. My experience was that school and me do not get along and I should never do it. And I did it anyway. And I was freaked out. And I took 3 courses the first semester just to know if I could actually get my foot wet and see if I could handle it. And I did amazingly well. It amazed me. But as a result, it was really stepping into that fear. And we really kind of got away from the fear versus love kind of angle on this. But the point was that I did put that fear, or I challenged my fear. I do want to bring it back to what we were talking about with the fear versus love, because we only have a few minutes left. We are on short time. But the idea is, if somebody is creating the fear in their life, and this is, I think that you can agree with this. If we're creating fear in our life to challenge ourselves to grow faster and stronger, it's always going to be healthy, just like putting more weight on the bar just outside of what we've already done before to see if we can actually get stronger. And I think that is very, very valid and very important. But
Assistance.
if it's somebody, while you're trying to lift the bar, if somebody's putting extra weight on there on you that's detrimental to you, it's going to do the same thing in the weights that it does in real life, which is it's going to burn you out or hurt you. And so some external fear isn't really going to get what we're looking for, because fear, while it's a motivator, if I scare myself a little bit and challenge myself, it's not a motivator if somebody who is in a higher position is threatening my very being or ability. And so that kind of fear really can work for a little while, and people will work for a little while, but they'll rebel and they'll revolt and they'll leave. And where I started with this earlier was when people realized that they didn't actually have to stay in a terrible environment. Pre-COVID, they thought they had to stay. Post-COVID, they realized that they don't, because life is too short and nobody wants to spend it locked up. Everybody started going, wait a minute, what can I have in life? And I think it's a real opportunity for businesses to start looking at, okay, how can we use the principles of love and building people and inviting people and acknowledging people and appreciating people, and see that those people, when they get that, they excel far beyond what they were doing, because they'll scare themselves with their challenges and their abilities and their desire for growth. They can scare themselves. I don't need to. I can just love them on their journey. And I can also challenge them by saying, hey, you know what? We love you, but we're not seeing you grow the way you think you want to. What are you going to do? And one of the things I like about you and Vinny and Tyler at Precision is you invite your guys that you hire to be their best selves, and you love them up and love them out. They're like, look, we think you're wonderful, just not for our culture. Go do what you do somewhere else if they're not working within your culture. But if they're working within your culture and they're holding the values that you're having, what else can we do? How else can we grow you? How else can we help you? And that's that idea of love. That's that idea of really bringing people along with us, and really seeing the way I would say it is really seeing the potential of someone else and helping them to activate their potential is what love is all about. And what I saw always as fear is fear is really paying attention to what they're not doing, and then trying to get them to live to their potential by pointing out all of their flaws. And that just doesn't work. So
Kind of delved into the fear and then just wrapped it up.
wrapped it up. You know, I think this topic deserves a little bit more conversation around it. We might have to
Yes.
do this again.
Break it out.
Yeah. But hey, it's been fun jumping on here with you today. And I got an appointment in about 2 minutes. So we'll see you all later. Thank you, Kevin. Looking forward to talking soon.
Absolutely. Bye, guys.